Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Cooler with an EDNR.
Wait, it's around the water cooler.
What did I say?
Around the cooler.
She wants some beer.
It is like 8 in the morning.
It's like so early. I'm already crying.
Yes. It's a goal of mine every
my
podcast
gosh.
episode to get you to cry.
It's Around the Water Cooler. I'm so sorry. Good morning, everybody. Today it's me, Dehvynne.
And me, Alexa.
Hi. We're trying. We really are. So today we're going to be talking about the Sandhills
Ooh.
and the Ogallala Aquifer.
So when you look at Nebraska, like right in the middle of Nebraska, boom. That's the Sandhills.
If you see large piles of sand with
Think of,
grass
like-
on top of it.
Yeah, like think of a giant sandbox, but Nebraska with some native plants.
Some grass.
Yeah, some grass and then like random pockets of wetlands or lakes.
No cornfields because it is sand.
I mean, it's really hard to grow any kind of plants in sand.
That is true.
Agricultural plants, I should say. So it's a pretty brief overview of the Sandhills. Oh, and then
We're going to get into it a little bit more.
some cows.
Cows. Beef. Arby's.
That's what's for
Works.
dinner.
Okay, so with the Sandhills, are actually ancient sand dunes that are from the Pleistocene geologic time period. So that's about 1.8 million to 10,000 years.
Whoa, that's super old.
So they are made out of sediment eroded from the Rocky Mountains by the Pleistocene glaciers that washed out into the plains.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, in Nebraska, we were an ice land at one point made of glaciers. It's kind of fun. So the soils of the Sandhills are unlike any other soils in the Great Plains, which create habitats for unique grasses and plants. I believe
Yeah, so there are approximately 720 species of plants that are estimated to be growing in the Sandhills, and more than half, so around 650 of them, are identified as native plant species, which is pretty cool.
love that.
Yeah, so some of the Sandhills plants are sand dropseed, sand bluestem, sand lovegrass, I love that name, and sandhill muhly, little bluestem, hairy grandma.
Hairy grandma?
Grandma?
Grandma.
Yeah.
Hairy grandma.
Hairy grandma, blue grandma. Awesome. Then there's different kinds of grasses. There's actually like cactuses out there. I like just like super west Nebraska. Really pretty. Yeah.
Whoa, I had no idea that kind of stuff grew in Nebraska. Solely think about corn and grass.
Well, a lot of people do when you think of Nebraska, you think corn. But if you look at the Sandhills in the western part of the state, there's less precipitation. It's like mostly sand, so it's a lot drier.
So it's like a desert without
Yes.
the desert.
Yeah, Nebraska is known for having we have like 8 different ecoregions, and the
Whoa.
precipitation ranges so much within the state from the east to the west. It's crazy. Nebraska used to be called the Great Desert,
That is crazy.
but now we're the Great Plains.
we are the Great Plains. We have hairy grandma. And look it up, guys. It's real. I'm not just saying hairy
And it's
grandma. for
Harry,
funsies.
Grama.
Grandma.
Grandma, not grandma. Grandma.
Might be called grandma.
Grandma?
Grandma.
Grandma. Well, going back to the Sandhills, the area is also critically important to the migratory birds. I just
Birds.
birds.
Migratory birds.
Just had like a New York accent there. Migratory birds like the Sandhills crane, which is the migratory bird of Nebraska.
That's fun.
Yeah, super fun. The migratory birds, you can go to different places in Kearney and see, like early in the spring, and it's actually like really cool to see. There are thousands of birds that come in like basically one spot in Nebraska for like a week and then go up to Canada. Really awesome.
You like birds, don't you?
I'm a bird watcher for sure.
I was like, okay. I don't know if I'm just out of the loop, but I was like, I have no idea what our state
I'm
flower
a
is.
bird watcher for sure.
But you also knew what the state flower was, so maybe I just don't know a whole lot.
I'm a flower person too.
I also like flowers, but I just don't know their names, I guess. I don't know.
That's like if you ask me any other flower in the state, I don't know it. I'm just like
Okay.
meadowlark.
Meadowlark.
That was
I
a
know what
bird.
that is.
That was a bird. Goldenrod.
It's close enough. Yes, meadow.
I know the two. Sometimes they blend.
Birds and flowers are very similar, I hear.
Birds and the bees, birds and the flowers.
Yeah, so going back to the Sandhills, the Nebraska Sandhills encompasses approximately 19,300 square miles of sand dunes, stretching 265 miles across Nebraska. So
For context, it's around 211 football fields.
So imagine 211 football games
Happening
right
all at once.
So the dunes are as high as 400 feet, as long as 20 miles, and the slopes are as steep as 25%.
So another comparison to do is the dunes that are as high as 400 feet. Think of the state capitol building or 40 floors. Like that's insane for a sand dune to be that tall.
So yeah, going back to like the natural habitat of the Sandhills, as much as 85% of the Sandhills region is intact natural habitat, because I think that it's sand. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, it's one of the least disturbed prairies in the entire United States. Pretty awesome that that's here in our state.
So, and that is pretty cool. Yeah, and the Sandhills contain about 95% or 12.75 million acres of rangeland for cows.
Yeah, livestock grazing is one of the most dominant land uses that are out in the Sandhills. There's over 535,000 cows. Moo.
So, precipitation in the Sandhills ranges yearly from a total of 23 inches in the east to slightly less than 17 inches in the west.
Yeah, so I'm sure citizen scientists that are collecting rain are really important in the Sandhills because of that variability.
That's right. So, do we have any rain people out in the Sandhills?
Yeah, I would assume that we do.
That's awesome.
And if there's not, this is your time to shine.
That's right.
We need you.
We need you. Contact Jim Williams. His information is in our Any Rain episode. So go ahead and just take a listen to that. Yeah, the Sandhills have numerous lakes and wetlands that help recharge the Ogallala Aquifer, actually, which is another thing that we're going to be talking about today.
Oh my gosh, what is the Ogallala Aquifer? Or better yet, what is an aquifer?
An aquifer is a body of water that is under the ground. So it is groundwater, a big deposit of groundwater.
Yeah, so an aquifer is basically just in the ground underneath us, but it's filled with water within its pores. So there are different kinds of aquifers based on the geology that's underneath us, whether it's confined or unconfined. But in general, an aquifer is just a saturated area of water underneath us. Right. And based on the geology, they can have different names. And so that's where the Ogallala Aquifer comes from. Or the name, I guess, Ogallala Aquifer comes from, is because it was composed of the Ogallala group.
Some historical context about the Ogallala Aquifer. It's composed of the Ogallala group or the Ogallala Formation. Why is it called that when we just think of it as the Ogallala Aquifer? Most think of it as solely one geologic formation, but it consists of geologic formations that vary in age and type of sediment. That's why when you study the aquifer, you'll see it called like the Ogallala group or formation, or you'll even see it called the High Plains Aquifer because it's just composed of a lot of different parts. Some of the formations within the Ogallala consist of the Gearing Formation, which is included in the
Rickery.
The Brule Formation, and the Broadwater Formations. All of them were deposited within the Tertiary period, 33 million to 1.6 million years ago. So,
whoa, that's old.
That is super old. I think back when I was researching, the oldest I got for I think the Ogallala Aquifer itself was 1.8 million years old for context. So the different formations that also consist of the Ogallala Formation or group are a lot older in different regions and parts, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so some of those geologic formations vary in age and sediment type.
Most of those formations hold water, though, so the name has slowly shifted to the High Plains Aquifer to be all-encompassing, even though the name Ogallala is more widely known and used. So yeah, a lot of those formations that I just mentioned are volcanic ash sediment deposits that have been carried by winds over time, which is really interesting. And also, when the Ogallala and the younger Broadwater formations were created, rivers eroded valleys and then filled the valleys with water over and over again, and sands, which also allow the groundwater to permeate, are common in the Ogallala. So those sands kind of deposit within those valleys where the water is. So even though those formations have been covered with different types of sediment over time, that kind of still allows the water to flow freely underneath the ground.
Yeah, it's good to note that there is a lot more detail that we can go into talking about the Ogallala Aquifer geology-wise and temporally-wise, but it gets pretty in-depth. But if you have any questions about it, we have geologists here at the department that would love to talk to you.
Yeah, they are very knowledgeable about it, and probably more so than I am. So
I don't know a lot about geology. I think it's super interesting and I love to learn about it, but we have professional geologists here that could answer the questions with no doubt in their mind.
And if you are curious, our sources come from the university, UNL here. So one quick Google search and it'll give you all the information that you'll need about it. From wheat and cows to corn and cotton, the regional economy depends almost exclusively on agriculture irrigated by the Ogallala groundwater.
Yeah, the Midwest, we supply at least 1/5 of the total U.S. agricultural harvest. Nebraska plays a big role in that.
You know what it is? Corn. Corn.
I actually think we export or we produce the 4th largest amount of corn in the United States.
You would think that because we are only known for corn, that we would be the number one exporter of corn.
I think Iowa beats us, to be honest.
And the only way they beat us. Did you know that we are actually number one in U.S. popcorn production?
I love popcorn.
I also love popcorn. I made popcorn last night. It was divine. I had some plant butter and some salt on it. It was really awesome.
I had popcorn on Tuesday, actually.
Should have popcorn every day.
It's a really good, healthy snack. And you're boosting Nebraska economy.
That's right. Support your local farmers by
Buy popcorn.
When you go to Rocaberry Farms.
Do it right now. Get
buy
up.
a bag. Buy 10 pounds of popcorn.
Get up wherever you are.
Do it. Did you know that if the aquifer goes dry, that more than $20 billion worth of food and fiber will vanish from the world's food market?
That's not super surprising, especially because scientists say it'll take 6,000 years of natural processes to help refill the aquifer if it does go dry. That's crazy. USGS, or U.S. Geological Survey, started studying the aquifer in the early 1900s. Them and other state and local agencies such as us, NEDNR, and NRDs, we began to monitor the groundwater with wells in Nebraska, and the USGS and other state and local agencies throughout the High Plains Ogallala Aquifer. We have more than 7,000 wells to monitor groundwater levels.
That's crazy. And, with monitoring those water levels and things of that nature, it's increased efficiency in irrigation and it slows the rate of water level decline.
Well, we have promoted groundwater conversations too. That's why it's so important to have your state and local agencies monitoring the groundwater, just to make sure that there is enough water for those who need it and who their livelihood depends on it.
Not only for agricultural purposes, but for personal use. They make sure that there's enough water to go around for everybody.
Yeah, the Ogallala groundwater is such a vital aspect of Nebraska, and also so vital to the Midwest that it's really important to be aware of the groundwater levels, to monitor it with good science, good data, to have good communication about it. It's basically like what we do here at DNR is we are trying to preserve this amazing natural resource that we have for everybody in the state.
Preserve and protect.
Yes. Preserve, protect, prolong the life, and can't think of anything else.
I hope you guys enjoyed, listening to us talk about the Sandhills and the Ogallala Aquifer and some of its geologic formations within it. It's been kind of fun learning about it, and I hope that you guys can take away some useful information about it as well.
Yeah, if you don't take anything away from this podcast, you should take away that the Ogallala Aquifer is amazing. It's unique to Nebraska, and we're doing our absolute best to preserve it for everybody here.
We are protecting our number one export, popcorn. Okay, well, thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, I think break time's over. Bop, dip, dop, da, dum, bop.